Hey everybody, this is Rod Melvin, the Book of Mormon Evidence Guy, and I have with me two dear friends from Florida that are here to talk about the Phoenicia ship, and these guys are kind of the most important cog in this whole wheel of the Phoenicia. So this is Mike and Betty Red Ant LaFontaine, and why don't you tell us a little bit about yourselves?
Ja, te, Betty Red Ant LaFontaine and Chef, disposadat na shak, lashi inishtra, ashin habashichin, kia ani the shache, kurajin sessionada, the hot out eight dimension. So I just introduced myself in Navajo. I am from the Red Clay Bottom clan, which is my mother's clan, born for the Salt clan. The Towering House people, which is the Kia'ani, are my grandfathers, and the Twittigini, which is the Bitter Water people, are my grandmothers. And this is how I am Diné Navajo. A lot to say, but that's how we introduce ourselves traditionally.
Isn't that awesome that they actually it's kind of like Nephi basically saying I Nephi born of goodly parents. I mean, he's kind of introducing his ancestry too. Mike, what about yourself?
I'm Mike, of course. I am part Chippewa from the Turtle Mountain Reservation, North Dakota. My ancestors, my grandfathers left the reservation and became urban Indians. So that's what I've been, an urban Indian my whole life. They were urban Indians, so
Fantastic.
my mom is full-blood Swede, so I'm a half-breed. Métis is what they call me.
Métis.
Métis.
Mhm.
All right. Okay, and we also have with us today the two other individuals who are going to remain somewhat. Oh, there they are.
How are you trying to keep us hidden
So we got
over here?
our editor and videographer extraordinaire, Bril Hernandez.
The Mesoamerican Heartlanders, I've been told.
And also Jake Blaney, my son-in-law and awesome
IT extraordinaire.
IT extraordinaire.
IT
Yes.
chief and man here.
Exactly.
Yes.
So they're going to be joining us here tonight as well because we all were recently, except for Jake, we're in a very special place and a very special time for a very special event, which we will talk about a little bit later in the show. All right. So a lot of people are going, okay, so what's the Phoenicia and who is
Who
this?
are they at?
What's
Yeah.
talking about that? And let me just a very brief little overview. So Captain Philip Beale, this is his signature here on the painting there. Was with the Royal Navy. He discovered history by this Greek historian called Herodotus, and he was about 500 BC. And in his history, he talks about how these Phoenicians, who are basically Israelites that come from the area around Lebanon and Israel today, how that they were actually making. Well, first off, they were some of the greatest seafaring people in the whole world. They plied the whole waters of the Mediterranean and possibly other places, which we're going to talk about as well. But basically, so they were these people who had the ability to travel all over the world, and they actually found sections of their ships. And when Philip Beale heard about the possibility that around 500 BC is when Herodotus talks about this, and Herodotus said as much as 100 years before his time,
Yeah, 600 BC.
these Phoenicians were making circumnavigations of Africa. He said, you know what, I want to see if we can do this. Now, Philip Beale is probably one of the world's foremost experts on ancient maritime
He's
sailing.
an explorer, an adventurer, an
Exactly.
English gentleman.
Yeah, and he's actually done a couple of other
Did the
voyages.
aboard in the Indonesia.
Yeah.
To Madagascar, ancient.
Yep. So he's already well respected as far as that's concerned. Probably one of the most knowledgeable people in the world on this.
Yeah, on ancient sailing ships, definitely.
Exactly. So basically, I found out about it because of a guy by the name of Keith Johnson, and he told me about how he had been selected to be on one of the crew members of the ship on the first voyage. Now the ship has done several voyages, but there's two of them that we are really especially interested in because they have to do, our brothers and sisters, with the Book of Mormon. There's 3 voyages that are mentioned specifically in the Book of Mormon. There's the Jaredite voyage, the Nephite voyage, and then the Mulekite voyage. And this ship has actually done 2 of those voyages.
2 of the 3.
We're going to explain what that is. So essentially, so he began to build the ship, had the ship built in Awad, Syria, in 2009. They know exactly how these ships were built because they've actually found portions of these ships in the mud of the Mediterranean and Jules Verne 7, which is actually on display in museums there in France.
Yeah.
But anyway, so the reason why this is important is because Lehi sailed from the Southern Arabian Peninsula, and so did the Phoenicians' first voyage. So just in a nutshell, they went. They left there in the fall of the year. This is all in our previous video, so you can see that as well. But then they came down the east coast of Africa. Their plan was to go up the west coast of Africa, but instead, what happened?
The winds and the current took them right to the promised land
Of
America.
North America.
Right into the Gulf, right where all the hurricanes come, right off of Africa, right in the Gulf, and right into New Orleans.
Yeah.
And that's where Lehi landed, New Orleans.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah. Well, that's where the archaeology starts to show up.
All
and so
in the
forth.
south. Yeah.
So that was the first voyage, and then after that, again, we're really compressing a whole lot of information.
Yeah.
After that, then he sailed around up into like Scandinavia and up into the UK, and then they took the ship back around into the Mediterranean, and then he came over a couple of different times and spoke at my events, the Firm Foundation Expos, and we were just thrilled by the fact that he had done this. Now he is not a member of our faith.
No,
When he started,
Yeah.
he knew nothing about the Book of Mormon.
never looked at it.
It was
Jim.
amazing. That's what always amazed us. This guy's done all these things and knows nothing what he's doing. I'm thinking, this is awesome. He knows now. He's got an annotated Book of Mormon.
That's right. That's right. And we're hoping that he will continue to read that. But so he came over, and after he did this expedition, we thought, you know what? It would be so cool if he were to take the ship, a 600 BC replica ship, and not only do the Lehi voyage, but also show that the Phoenicians could get over here, because we don't know hardly anything about the Mulekite voyage.
Yeah.
In the Book of Mormon, it doesn't say how they got here. It doesn't say anything about building a ship like they did with the Jaredites and the Nephites. They just somehow showed up here. So they must have had some, either they just left it out of the record, or they must have had some way to get over here that they didn't have to build their own ships. And that is where the Phoenicians come in.
Definitely. They were the seafarers of that day. They ruled the Mediterranean. They were a city-state throughout the whole Mediterranean. So you would imagine when Nebuchadnezzar was getting ready to raid Jerusalem, that word went out everywhere. And I could see the Phoenicians coming up to the shore and picking up these, not just the Mulekites, but others who wanted to get away and to safety, and taking them to safety somewhere else.
Now, the interesting thing about the Mulekites is that there's no mention of Mulek in any ancient history. That we know who the sons of Zedekiah were because they're actually named. What happened was that when the Babylonians came up and they sacked the southern portion of Israel, and this is about 586 BC, they brought those people back along with King Zedekiah and all of his sons, and then they proceeded to kill all of his sons in front of him and then put his eyes out so that the last thing he would ever see in this life is his sons dying. They were trying to exterminate his descendancies.
Yeah.
And yet in the Book of Mormon it says that there was a descendant of King Zedekiah whose name was Mulek, but that's never mentioned in any other book. And so people said, well, Joseph Smith must have made this thing up about Mulek. But let's talk about a little bit of so we had this event in Washington D.C. just last weekend.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit more about who was there.
We were invited, the Heartland Research Group, were invited by Her Excellency, the Ambassador of Tunisia. And she wanted to celebrate the ship because that is her people's lost history. And she wants to bring that culture back, and that Phoenician ship is a big thing for them.
Yeah.
I mean, they had the biggest celebration in Carthage, welcoming Philip and his crew.
Yeah, that's where they started the trip
Yeah.
to America. And also bridging the gap between the old world and new world, bringing the customs together, finding the likeness of each other's customs.
Yeah. So who was at the big event? So I know there's people from the Smithsonian that were there. There's people representing the church there.
Philip Beale was there.
Philip Beale was there.
Yuri and Vera Sonata, they were on both voyages and filming it.
The
They're the
filmmakers.
filmmakers.
Yeah,
And
filmmakers.
they're divers too. So
Yeah, yeah.
they're actually
Lots of our great volunteers were there. You were there.
I was there.
Yeah.
Brill was
Brill was there. Jake, where were you?
Yeah, this guy didn't want to come.
Jake,
Washington, D.C.
He had other things to accomplish.
he didn't have any khakis to put on.
Yeah, apparently not.
But it was an amazing event. I
Yes.
mean,
It
the
was.
people were
Dignitaries
there.
from Morocco there.
Yes, they were there. Lebanese.
Lebanese and also
Um,
several people from Tunisia. Tell us a little bit about Arish.
Arish. She and I hit it off right away. I mean, we started to see things that we have in common with our people. I mean, rug weavers. And the Navajo women, they weave a rug on a standing loom, and they sit on the floor when they weave. And they also have a lap spinner that they use on their lap. The Tunisian women do the same. We started seeing things like that, and it was just like, what? You know, I never knew that another culture did. They do similar things, but these were almost exact. And then I cooked dinner for them when we first met with the ambassador, and brought out a big bowl of fry bread. And I lifted it open. I says, I want to surprise you. I make you my custom bread that we have. She's like, oh my goodness, that's my bread. We make that bread in my country. So she immediately got on the phone, FaceTime her husband, showed him the bread in Tunisia at that moment, showed him the bread, and he's like, I didn't know you know how to make bread. Because, you know, she doesn't cook that much.
Right.
And so
She's the
he's like,
ambassador.
where did you get the bread? Well, the Navajo lady that's here, Betty, she made the bread. He's like, wow, that's amazing. That's her word. She loves the word, using the word amazing. It's
Yeah.
just totally amazing that, you know, how did she know? And I was like, that's our bread. That's what we make at home.
Wow.
So those kind of things that we're finding, I mean, even down to the slaughter of a sheep, you know,
Really?
they eat sheep, they eat
Yeah.
goat, they eat lamb, you know, and we cut at the throat too, and they cut at the throat too, and to drain the blood.
Offer a prayer of thanksgiving before
Offer prayer before, you know.
to the animal
Wow.
and the
Yeah,
creator.
yeah.
Well, you know what that reminds me of? That reminds me of the way that the Israelites and the Hebrews do their kosher slaughter.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
That's
It's
exactly
exactly the same.
Yeah, it's just amazing. So
It's part of the laws of Moses, actually.
It is. It is. I went and I studied this for a little while about 2 years ago, and I called a friend of mine who's a Hasidic Jew, and I talked to one of the rabbis, and he explained to me what the process was from the beginning to end, and he basically described exactly the way that the Navajo do it. And then when I heard about the way that the Phoenicians do it, I'm like, I mean, that's another witness, right?
yeah.
Yeah. So basically, we had this big meeting, but let me just explain a couple of quick things, because we mentioned about Mulek, right?
Yeah.
And they have an interesting tradition of right before the Babylonians attacked and sacked the southern part of Israel. Several of the Levite priests and some of the other people apparently left Jerusalem before the Babylonians arrived there. So maybe someone was actually listening to Lehi when he was preaching and telling them if they don't repent.
Jeremiah and the other prophets.
Jeremiah, yes, exactly. So maybe somebody was listening. So some of them actually left, and they apparently came to this island called Gerba, which is just off of the east coast of Tunisia. Now, where's Tunisia? A lot of people don't know where Tunisia is. In fact, if you remember, we were up in Afton, Wyoming here a couple of nights ago, and I asked the crowd of about probably 60 or 70 people there, does anybody here, if I had a map of the world, could you point out Tunisia? And there wasn't a hand anywhere. They said, no way. It's actually, if you take Italy, most people know where Italy is because it looks like the boot, right?
Yeah.
If you take the very bottom boot of Italy, and the boot is kind of kicking Sicily,
Yeah.
just directly south of that, across the Mediterranean to the south, is where Tunisia is located. So that's where it is.
Southeast.
Yes. And so there's an island off of the east coast of Tunisia,
Yeah.
which is called Gerba. And it's a really fascinating island. They said that there was this princess that left from basically Israel
Yeah.
Mhm.
She was
and arrived there. Now
Greek.
understand that Tunisia is about 95% or 98% Muslim. There's just a small population of Jews, and they
And
live on
Christians.
that island. and they have the oldest synagogue in the world, as I understand it, is there in Gerba, and that synagogue has the door.
A piece of the
Piece
door
of the door of the
and a
king's,
piece of the wall, rock, a piece of the rock.
Of
King Solomon's
Solomon's
temple.
temple.
from Jerusalem.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now another fascinating thing though about this was that they said that they was so there was a name that we brought up from the Book of Mormon that they say is actually quite common on the island of Gerba.
Yeah.
And that name is spelled Mulek.
But it's pronounced
Mulek.
Mulek. She goes, I have friends, Mulek, in
They
Tunisia.
named their children
They named their
Mulek.
Mulek, which actually means little king.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Now, what has been kind of understood, or at least that this is some of the latest research, is that it's possible that the reason why Mulek was never mentioned as one of the sons of Zedekiah who was killed is because he may not have been born yet. He may have been in vitro at the time,
Yeah.
and that King Zedekiah sent his wife off with the Phoenicians. And the first place that they would go would be basically Gerba, because that was kind of first off, it was a big port city, and also it was kind of a protected area.
Yeah.
And so maybe she went there, possibly gave birth there, maybe even went on. But if they were there, the chances that the Phoenicians, she could have taken a Phoenician ship and gotten to America
Mhm.
is really fascinating, because the second voyage of Captain Philip Beale was to go. It was called the Phoenicia to America
Yeah, 2,000 years
Before
before
Columbus.
Columbus. Yeah.
expedition,
Yeah.
and he set out to prove that the Phoenicians could, in fact, make such a voyage.
Yeah.
You want us to tell us a little bit more about that voyage? What happened? Where did
Well,
they start from? Where did they go?
Tunisia, they started in Carthage, right there, and that's the big. They had a huge celebration and a huge send off for them. That's pretty cool.
Mhm.
Started out the Mediterranean, had some problems in the Mediterranean, had some winds blowing.
Broke the mast. We cracked it.
Broke the mast. The GPS showed that. I mean, they had a full sail blowing them out, and then the current going in, but they were actually going backwards. There, it happened in the Mediterranean also,
Oh, is that right? Yeah.
where they were going backwards. It looked like they were going forward, but they made it out of the Mediterranean down to the Canary Islands, where Philip Beale says, you stand in the Canary Islands and you throw a stick in the water, that stick's
Yeah,
landing up in America.
At some point, that it will.
The currents and the winds
Yeah.
to America. And that's, the Phoenicians knew this. I mean, you sail the winds and the currents,
Yeah.
There's not a no-brainer, and that's what Philip sailed to, winds and currents.
Yeah. So how long did it take them to cross the Atlantic?
38 days.
38 days.
Is that amazing? That's
That is
just-
fantastic.
Same route Christopher Columbus, same route all these other people. Just,
Coronado, DeSoto.
Right there.
Yeah, they kept.
Well, of course, because they would have learned it from Columbus, right?
the Phoenicians, that's true.
If Columbus had been born yet.
Columbus, we know from school that he discovered America.
Yeah. But unfortunately, I think he was like last.
Yeah.
Because the Vikings, we know were here before Columbus, and we know that the Jaredites were here before Columbus. We know the Nephites were here before Columbus. We know the Mulekites were here before Columbus. Like Columbus is like way down the
Yeah.
list, but he kind of gets the credit for it because of his ancestry, I guess, or the history goes to whoever writes it, right?
Yeah, I was about to say. So you're telling me that the history, we just believe the way the history is written. Just
Yeah.
We can rewrite it, right?
I can just say
Well-
whatever I want, right?
The Phoenicia is going to rewrite that history,
Exactly.
And Columbus never set foot on the United States soil.
No, hold on. Now that I have to correct, because I've heard that many times. It said,
Okay.
well, because we know in the Book of Mormon they talk about this person who is going to be guided by the Lord to the Promised Land, and if the Promised Land is the United States,
Yeah,
then he had to make it to Columbus to America. And it turns out he did actually.
he did.
Jonathan Neville did a number of researches, and I think it was on maybe a second or third voyage. He actually did land on what is today a territory of the United States. So it wasn't on mainland,
Okay.
but he did make it to what is now the United States. So just a little something about that, and that way because a lot of people have talked about Columbus was that guy,
Yeah.
right, in the Book of Mormon.
Well, he did open the way.
Yeah,
You know, he was led this way.
yeah,
So yeah.
yeah. But when I found that out, I was like, yes, you know. But
well, the Indians, they Native Americans, they
yeah.
don't like that guy very much.
Well, he actually is interesting because that's another thing. I've actually talked about John Cabot as possibly being that guy, but we've had prophets and apostles and so forth that talked about Columbus. But actually, John Cabot, Columbus was sent by the King of Spain basically to go over and find and get riches from the New World and take them back to Europe. So he was there to exploit the Native American people to some extent. Now he did say in his in his journals and so forth that he felt that the Holy Spirit had led him to do this journey and so forth. But John Cabot, on the other hand, also felt like he was led by the Lord, but his goal was to go over and bring the gospel of Jesus Christ, Christianity, to the native peoples.
Yeah, he did
built
land
the first.
north.
He built the first church in North America. First Christian church there. So John Cabot, I think, could have been the guy, but again, I'm not going to argue about Columbus as far as that's concerned. We'll give him credit.
Tomato.
Yeah, tomato. Anyways,
Mezzo Heartland.
yeah, yeah, but John Cabot did not come over here to exploit the New World, and that's one of the differences. All right, but back to this Mulek expedition. So he basically went over. Then we know that so there's been different ideas. I mean, Wayne May has talked about that possibly Mulek and his ship may have come into the north and gone into the St. Lawrence Seaway. And another possible idea of that is that instead they came into the Gulf of Mexico because all of the others like Cortez and Coronado and Columbus, they all came south. They all ended up down by Florida.
Yeah.
And so if you think if that's the current that they're in, then they would have come into the Gulf of Mexico. And the Mississippi River is unique in that it is the only river that is actually that flows south, but you can literally sail up the river because the primary wind currents are north.
Yeah.
Okay, so now all of that. So what we think that happened is that Mulek and those who were with him, probably his entourage. Now, more than likely, he may have been just a tiny baby.
Yeah. May have had a couple ships.
Yeah, and it could be he may have been a few years old.
Yeah.
He may have still been in his mama's tummy because it only took about a month and a half to get across the Atlantic Ocean. So she may have still been pregnant when they went up the Mississippi River as far as they could go until they got to what is known as
the Des Moines Rapids.
The Des Moines Rapids, which is where they would have had to have stopped because the Des Moines Rapids were so shallow that you couldn't get past them. It was only about 2 feet deep.
Yeah.
And the ship couldn't go any further, so I think that's where the Lord basically said, okay, you've gone far enough inland, so now you've established a city called...
Probably about 2.5 miles north of Des Moines Rapids is where we believe Zarahemla is.
Yeah. Why do you think Zarahemla was there?
The Lord kind of said it was there.
And
Where?
DNC.
DNC 125.3, build me up a city across from Nauvoo and call it Zarahemla.
Yeah.
It's not, so it's...
Well, anybody who's been following our research, you know that's we hang our hat on that statement from the Lord that Zarahemla was across the river from Nauvoo.
Yeah, it's from the Lord, so take it up with him.
Yeah, exactly. In fact, the very first stake of this dispensation was actually the Zarahemla, Iowa stake.
Yeah.
So if that's the place where they landed, that means that's where Zarahemla began, which means that's where Mulek began his reign as he grew up and he was the rightful heir of King Zedekiah. Then his people would have revered him as a small child. That's why it's interesting that Mulek means little king, and then years after that, then somebody else shows up, the Nephites.
They show up a couple hundred years later.
Yeah.
And one of the first questions is, because Lehi told them when they were out in the wilderness, I had a vision, and of course, Lamb, here he goes again, visionary man. But, Jerusalem was destroyed. He knew Jerusalem was destroyed, but the people themselves, when they got there, that was one of the first questions, was Jerusalem burned, and they knew it. They left as the Jerusalem was being burned.
Yeah, they knew. Well, plus if they had been there on the island of Gerba, they may have known as over the course of a few other ships that came and went and said, yeah, that Jerusalem's they're gone, they're done.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Carried off to Babylon.
Yeah.
So I have a question.
Yes.
Because I got dragged along to go to Washington D.C.
Kicking and screaming.
I was
Yeah.
kicking and screaming.
And
I
iron
wasn't sure. I was like,
chains.
why am I going to this? Why am I going to this? That was like the big question that I had. Now since then, I've gotten some answers.
I couldn't answer that.
But yeah, this guy doesn't know it. He's clueless because he refused to go. So my question to you is, can you explain to him why it's relevant? Because I'm trying to convince him to switch over to Heartland, and this is the cornerstone. This is the cornerstone piece, in my opinion. The Phoenicia ties it in. So can you tell me why we should think we should see the relevance of the Phoenician ship in Book of Mormon timelines?
Well, the ship was patterned, after a 600 BC ship that they found in the mud. That's what Captain Beale. He's a realist. He's an adventurer. Well, I'm going to do something. I'm going to, if I'm going to walk across the Alps in snowshoes, I'm going to make these myself. I'm going to slaughter the beef and I'm going to make the raw. That's what he does. So this was reproduced as a 600 BC ship. So is he going to make it across the ocean, or was it going to fall apart in the middle and everybody die? This thing made
There
it.
were no backup ships.
No. Oh no. There was.
In
They
fact,
had
if you fell off the ship, you basically you might as well just say
Yeah.
your prayers because you're
Yeah.
done.
Yeah. So this ship made it over to America.
I mean, but he like put all the amenities in there, right? Like there was like an engine,
Yeah.
and
A full,
an
an LED screen.
an
Yeah.
LED screen, and like they
I
and
don't think
it
so.
was like
Uh,
electronics that controlled the rudders, right?
Big gas stove, double
Big-
freezer.
Right? It was like it was like a cruise liner, right? Sailing
Complete
down.
with comedy.
I'm sure
On
they
board the ship.
imagined that while they were on the ship.
And they had a
Through
working
the-
bathroom.
Yeah.
Yeah. The working bathroom was awesome.
It was an outhouse overseas.
Yeah.
Actually.
This is a model of the ship. And on the model of the ship, you probably can't see it. There's a square box up here.
Yeah, there you go.
And all it was a square box that hung off the side of the ship.
With a hole in it.
And that's what you did your business.
And
And it had a bucket next to it that after you're done, you put some water in the bucket and flush whatever didn't go down.
well, at least you didn't have to use poopery because you had the sea breeze.
Yeah, you had,
See
No.
the breeze.
Sea breeze was right there to make it all work.
but most of the crew slept down below deck in hammocks because of the rock. If you can imagine the rocking, so they were in hammocks. The food was cooked in the galley. The galley was put on the ship. Philip Beale said, because we're rebuilding the ship, want to be authentic. He says, probably no galley. Probably we had a galley because we have these people and we need to cook and have a place to stay and for eating and stuff. But most likely had no galley on it. So pretty crude. They fished. They caught fish. When they come around Africa, they caught all kinds of tuna. When they were coming across the Atlantic, they caught maybe 2 tuna. But canned goods.
So yeah. In fact, we actually had an entire interview with 4 of the people who were actually on board the ship of what it's like on a daily basis. What's the daily grind? What
Yeah.
do you do on a daily? What are your jobs and how do you do it? How much work is it and so forth. That to me that's fascinating. But to answer your question kind of directly to you, Brill, why do I think it's important? It has to do with actually. To me, it comes down to a History Channel documentary about who really discovered America. And in this documentary, they have the experts, and they say, so we know that the people could leave, the Phoenicians would leave the Saudi Arabian Peninsula, and then they said there's actually a church out there called the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, and they believe in this book called the Book of Mormon, which talks about the people who came from Israel around 600 BC
Yeah.
and came to America, and then they proceed to talk about how they came to the west coast of Central America, and then they said, you know what? By all estimations, that the very most knowledgeable people in the world on this said it would take a minimum of 580 days to make this expedition, which is over a year and a half. That means that he said, and they actually come out and say, the expert in this documentary says, yeah, a ship could maybe make it, but it would make it with dead people. If you couldn't store enough water and food for 30 or 40 people for a year and a half without having anywhere where you could actually pick up water, pick up food, you're crossing the Indian Ocean first, and then you're crossing the largest ocean on the planet at literally its widest place to make a West Coast landing. So because of the Mesoamerica theory of the Book of Mormon, the church got kicked in the teeth by this.
Yeah.
And if they would have just contacted Philip Beale or you guys,
want to put out a shout out to the History Channel. Come see us. We actually got a ship that crossed the ocean in one piece, could have easily gone back and forth with 600 BC technology, came into America by a sailor who knows the seven seas.
Yeah.
We can show you what really happened.
So I want to ask you guys, so how do you think, if Joseph Smith was making this stuff up back in 1820s, right, 1830, how would he possibly know this?
He wouldn't have. I mean, that was the biggest deal when the Book of Mormon was published, and here it is, and people were seeing 600 BC sailed across the ocean. No, that didn't happen back in that day, and that took years. I mean, still today, there's no ancient sailing.
Yeah.
That never happened.
And the other thing is that there was even a ship that tried to do the other route to go across the Indian Ocean and whatever, and they didn't even make it past the first leg. They literally had to be dragged by a powered ship. It's called the Jewel of Muscat, and they didn't follow Philip Beale. He wasn't the captain of that ship.
Yeah.
And they failed miserably. They couldn't even get to Indonesia, which is only the first part of the first leg of that journey going to that area.
Philip Beale knows the oceans, knows the currents, knows that you do not sail away from the current. You sail into the current, with the wind.
Yeah.
And it's just been that way for centuries.
So while we were there in Washington, D.C., we had the opportunity to sit down with Philip Beale and have an awesome interview. And he told us the same thing as he told Scripture Central and others. That route doesn't work. This is the only route that really works. We actually know which direction and what time of the year they left because the Book of Mormon said they gathered fruit and honey in abundance and got on board the ship and were blown before the winds.
Yeah.
So we know it was in the fall of the year. In the fall of the year, there's only one direction that ship would have gone if they were following the winds, and
if they took off from
down
that
the
point.
east coast of Africa.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what Philip Beale did.
Came down around and straight.
Unknowingly,
Yes.
the story of the Book of Mormon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In fact, he thought that they were going to go up the west coast of Africa, but when they got around the Cape of Good Hope, basically at the bottom of Africa, they started out on to the west side. They got into the Atlantic. The winds and the currents took them straight to North America. And he was trying. If you read the ship's log, they were trying pretty desperately to get back to Africa because they're ending up out in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean.
They were going to turn back into the Mediterranean. They were circumnavigating. That was their
goal. Yeah.
That was their goal.
Yeah.
So
okay, so we have a ship that's actually done both voyages, the two ship voyages. The other one was kind of a submarine. I actually teased Captain Bill. I said in the interview, I said, so do you think you could convert the Phoenicia into a submarine?
No sail.
No sail, and do the Atlantic again in a ship tight like into a dish.
And take a year.
And he didn't know about that, so I don't think he's ready there yet.
You have him thinking now. Yeah.
Maybe he'll try that. I don't know if he would.
We've asked Captain Bill, would you do this again?
He said
He
no.
said, heck no.
No, he did
It's
it
a
once.
lot of work.
It's like going to the moon. We went to the moon. Who's going to go back?
Yeah, exactly.
So
Well, so just a couple of quick things. So then, what happened to the ship after they did the Phoenicia to America expedition? They landed in the
Miami.
Dominican Republic, and then they came up to Miami and went up to
Fort Lauderdale.
Kind of hit a bunch of different harbors around the Florida area.
Yeah.
And then, what happened to the ship?
Well, first I want to say we had the opportunity of meeting the ship in Fort Lauderdale.
Oh yeah.
After we found out that it was coming there through you, Boy Tuttle, and others that told us about the ship coming in. And we wanted to be the friendly Indians to move the ship. So
Not the hostile Indian.
no. And so I told Mike, I says, we need to go down there. We need to see the ship. And I was really excited about it because not only because I wanted to see history being made, I also know as a Native American that we were taught that our people came from the east.
Yeah.
And when I heard that this ship was coming across from the east, um, it made me it made my heart swell, and I just began thinking about, well, in history books and all over the world, it's said that our people came across the ice and settled here in America. But all along, our people have shared stories with different, within the different tribal nations. They have their own story how we became here in this land. And mine, in the Navajo way, was that we came from the east direction across the big salt, the great waters.
Yeah.
And I was raised to believe that those great waters are the holy waters.
Wow.
That's the holy waters. When Creator comes, Great Spirit comes, He came from the east, and then He's going to come again from the east.
I remember something you told me that I didn't know about your childhood growing up. But you talked about on occasion in the mornings you would
Every morning.
take off running.
Running to the east, yes. And that
Can you
was,
tell us a little bit more about that? That was fascinating to me.
well, we had a traditional thing that we would run to the east and we would say our prayers. Not to the sun, but to the sun.
With the corn pollen.
The
The
creator.
corn pollen. And we would just say our prayers from our heart, thank you for Creator for our rest, and then we would just pray, each one of us, different prayers. We didn't recite a prayer, just a prayer, just kind of like talking to our
Creator,
spirit
yeah.
and Creator. So knowing that this ship came in that direction, just really, it felt good. It's like
They moved us.
it moved us to go down there and meet Philip Beale and the crew. It's like, yes, here's almost like proof that this really happened. Our people were carried over here
Yeah.
on ships, and so
So when you got there, what happened?
when I got there, we celebrated,
The
and
ship was
the ship came in, and later that day, I heard a call. It sounded familiar. That's the call. And you know what I did? I went, that is a call called the Lulu that the Native Americans throughout, powwows and celebration, they make that call.
there was a Lebanese girl on the ship.
Yeah. She did that call.
Yeah, when she came in, that was her
She
celebration.
called first,
Yeah,
and then you returned the call.
yeah.
No, she had no clue that nobody, somebody would make that call back. It was at the reception. She did it again. I did it back. She was looking out the room. She's like, who did that? And I did it back to her. It was just a great connection, and it hasn't stopped.
A connection between this Lebanese lady
Right.
and yourself. But
And
at the event, okay.
At the
Reception.
reception.
The reception, I tell you what, there was a moment there
Yeah.
that was really pretty special.
Mhm.
Because you have to understand, folks, that the Lulu sound is done in celebration. When a new child comes into this world, the mothers and the women who are helping with the childbirth will do the Lulu sound.
Yeah.
When are some of the other times? that they do?
Weddings.
Celebrations, welcoming people, just exciting.
If the hunters come back and
yeah,
everything, I
and
guess.
they do- yeah, and warriors and things like that.
Which is kind of, I have to say just for a second, because growing up, I love Bonanza and Gunsmoke
So do
and
we.
so forth.
So do we.
And I always found it kind of interesting that whenever the Native Americans, whenever the Indians were attacking the cowboys, they'd always come out there and go, "Ooh," kind of thing. And I'm going, that's kind of dumb, isn't it? Because they're like
Yeah.
letting everybody know that, hey, we're under attack now.
Yeah,
I don't think they did. That was totally Hollywood.
I had a
that was little
Lebanese-
John Wayne.
I had a Lebanese guy ask me that at the reception,
Oh,
Yeah.
you did?
And I said, no, the only thing you hear when an Indian's coming towards you to take your life is the knife entering your body and hitting a bone.
Or the arrow going.
Yeah. They're not going to warn you.
there's not going to be a warning. That was a total Hollywood thing. But I grew up with that, so
Yeah.
that's what I thought, and that's why I associated that sound with it.
Yeah.
And now I had to kind of reprogram myself to understand it's a really special thing.
But that it was, and that night at the reception, it was touching. I actually,
Yeah, you were brought to tears, I think.
Yeah, a lot of people were.
Betty did the
the
call, and then the ambassador,
Ambassador starts in on it.
and your Rish,
Yeah,
and then there were some Lebanese men there doing it too, which
they're not
I
supposed
heard
to do it. I think
they're not supposed to do. And I went to, I
it's supposed to
said,
be a women thing.
yeah, I
But
said,
they
did I?
can do it. The Lebanese men can do. I think it's in the native world. Not many men do it. So.
Yeah, but that's the reason why Brill he's good
Yeah.
though. He does okay.
But that was a moment. That was a moment that we shared between two cultures.
That was very special.
That was almost common ground.
Yeah,
I will say that in Mesoamerica, you there is no call like that.
Really?
Not that I know of, or I've studied.
Yeah.
yeah.
Interesting.
So it is a very Hebrew thing to do, and there's a few other things. For example, the fringes on the garment. So you see the fringe here on your garment here. That was actually something that God basically told the Hebrews to have a fringe upon their garment all of their days.
Mhm.
And so that's why you see Hebrews with the tallit with the fringes on the bottom. The women have a lot of times the fringes on the bottom of their skirts.
Mhm.
And the interesting thing about Native American attire is that it's the
Our
thing that makes it
regalia.
unique. And the regalia is the fringe all over.
And they overdo it too. I mean, there's fringe everywhere.
Yeah, yeah.
But it's nice. It's
I always thought that was for camouflage, like when you're hunting, it kind of breaks up your silhouette and so forth. And then I found out actually, that it can do that, but that's not the reason why they have it. It's because it's a cultural thing.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I don't think a lot of times Native people even realize that why they have the fringe on the garment. It's just something they do,
Mhm.
and it's kind of like the lulu and the sheep and so many different things that are kind of unique to Hebrew culture
Yeah.
that are being done by these different cultures around the world. So
Mhm.
we had an awesome discussion with Betty Renant here, and Vera and Arish about the three cultural differences. One from Brazil, one from the U.S.,
Mhm.
and a Native American, and one from Tunisia. And they got together. They talked about some of these interesting connections that they have culturally that you just don't find with a lot of other cultures.
Yeah, I was talking to Arisha and Vera about that afterwards.
Yeah.
And what's really special about that time we had together is that we want the same things. We want the same moral values. We want the same respect. We want the same reverence for our Creator. We want peace. We want love to flourish in the world.
Mhm.
The women are the strength of the nations. And
Think of the 2000 Stripling Warriors.
yeah, there you go.
Why were they so, brave and so forth and believe and have so much faith in God?
Yeah. And I remember a couple of conferences ago, President, why is it leaving my mind?
Nelson,
President Nelson,
Yeah.
our prophet,
Yeah.
sorry.
cut that out.
Yeah, President Nelson mentioning that the women are going to be the gathering and they will
Mhm.
bring the people together in the last days.
You feel that's one of the things that you're doing?
When
Definitely.
I'm getting the chills thinking about that now that you mention it because I feel that way.
Yeah.
We're coming across cultures. We're sharing our beliefs. We're sharing the love. We want peace. We do want peace.
But you're just one person. I mean, how big is the Navajo Nation?
They're gonna.
So can you make any difference to the Navajo Nation?
I hope so.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not going to be the Navajo Nation. It's going to be the Lakota. It's going to be the Sioux. It's going to be the Crow.
Tunisians.
Yeah.
And the Tunisians. The people cross those great waters.
Yeah.
Who were.
So how are you going to get this message out to the Navajo people?
Well, let's see. Mike's taking care of one thing at a time now. We're going to be able to share what happened in the Navajo Nation press. So
What's that? What?
yeah,
What?
the Navajo Nation newspaper in the press.
What's going on with that?
We don't know yet, but
We don't know yet, but it's
ask for some
looking that
information.
good. It's looking
Navajo
in good
Times.
direction right now. We just found out today.
So
But yeah,
you found out
Betty-
today that the Navajo Nation is doing what?
She says, we don't know yet. They just want some more information.
Oh, okay.
He sent them
An
a
article.
press release
They-
of what
yeah.
happened
They
in the
found out
reception.
about it. So
Yeah,
And so you think it might be a news article, possibly?
Maybe.
it could be.
Wow,
Maybe.
that would be one way that one person can touch a whole nation.
Well, Betty is going to plan a field trip to
Oh,
Tunisia.
yeah.
To
And-
Tunisia.
mhm.
To the women there in Tunisia.
Yeah,
And she'll be taking her native sisters with her.
nice.
Yeah. I'm gonna try to include 3 tribes. The
That would be one
Zuni,
heck of a Lulu.
yeah, the
The
Zuni, the Navajo, and one of the eastern tribes. So
Nice.
hopefully we can. I think the Cherokee, because the Cherokee have a story about
Yeah.
the waters.
So it'll be a cultural exchange. That's going to go back and forth. They'll come over here.
Yeah.
I mean, that's one of the things that moved the ambassador about what's going on with the Heartland model and the Heartland research group, which we've been doing, and
Mhm.
that's something that she wants to see move forward.
Yeah, in fact, well, I've had a lot of people at the event actually saying, so why, especially with me being a Book of Mormon guy,
Mhm.
what is the point? What is the Tunisian government and what does the Tunisians have to gain by any of this? And one of the things that I came away from that was that the Tunisian history, just like a lot of, it's like Book of Mormon history, has been hidden. It's been undermined. It's been kind of people try to it's been lost basically to history.
Romans erased it.
And the Phoenician history has been erased by the Romans when they lost the Punic Wars.
Yeah.
They basically had their libraries were burned to the ground in Carthage and Alexandria and so forth.
Yeah.
And their history literally has gotten. There is no written history of the greatness of the Phoenician Empire other than Herodotus and a few other historians that talked about that just briefly. But the Book of Mormon is interesting because it is another testament, if you will, of the Phoenicians and the possibility that Mulek got here on a Phoenician ship,
Mhm.
and that is actually part of the Book of Mormon story. So they're interested in having their history put back into history.
They
They're
believe
very passionate about that.
Yeah.
by the way.
they believe they're Phoenicians.
Yes.
That was their ancient ancestors.
Yeah.
The Moroccans,
Yeah.
the Libyans, the Tunisians,
people,
all
yeah.
those people.
Yeah.
And that's
So-
what brings up. They see a Phoenician ship in America. They know that we're building a Phoenician museum.
Yeah.
We've had a number of people wanting to give us artifacts to go in this museum.
Yeah.
From San Diego, talk to the Smithsonian guy.
Yeah.
It's amazing
What's coming together.
what they want to do.
So they want their history told. But for me personally, I'd like our history, the Book of Mormon history, to take its rightful place in the annals of history of
Yeah.
mankind. Because that is a real history of real people, places, and events that have been largely ignored, kind of like the Phoenicians.
Mhm.
Well, the Book of Mormon is not a Latter-day Saint history. It's a world history. It's
That's
for
the
everyone.
point, yeah.
Yeah. All right, listen, we need to wrap things up. But if you'd like to learn more about this, everybody, there's a couple of ways you can learn more. First off, you can subscribe right here. Just hit subscribe below here, and you'll be able to catch all of our other podcasts that we've been doing on the Phoenicia ship. You're probably going to be almost sick of the Phoenicia ship by the time we get done because this is such a big deal. But there was a book that Philip Beale wrote after the first expedition. It's called Sailing Close to the Wind by Philip Beale, okay, and Sarah Taylor. And this talks about the first expedition and what happened there. And then he kind of updated that and then added the second expedition,
Yeah.
the Mulek expedition, as we like to call
Atlantic BC.
it, Atlantic BC, which is an epic recreation of a Phoenician voyage 2,000 years before Columbus.
Yeah.
Back in Joseph Smith's day, he was actually attacked quite often. The people saying, first off, these people back then didn't have ships. They couldn't have made it. It was an improbable thing.
Mhm.
And many people have used that to try to bludgeon the church and to try to discredit Joseph Smith. But Joseph Smith is a prophet of God, and he actually nailed it. He didn't write the Book of Mormon, he translated it. The actual account was written by the people who actually did it. And Philip Beale and these 2 voyages have actually verified 2 of the 3. It can no longer be said that it maybe
Yeah.
could have happened
Yeah.
or whatever. Brothers and sisters, it's been done. The voyages of Lehi and his family and the voyages of Mulek have been done in a 600 BC replica ship.
Right.
So about 15, let's see, about 13 years ago, I did a DVD series called Book of Mormon Evidence Number 2. The first disc in that series was about the Phoenicia expedition. This is the first expedition. So if you'd like to learn more about that, if you have this, if you don't have this we just ran out of this, so we're actually going to be placing all of these up on our website, on the Book of Mormon Evidence streaming website. So you can actually see it there. You can learn more about it on these podcasts. So again, make sure you subscribe so that you can actually get a notification whenever we have new ones coming out. Mike and Betty, I just want to thank you so much for coming and spending your time to come out here all the way from Florida to beautiful Fairview, Utah.
It is beautiful.
and to talk about this special thing.
Yeah.
So just last thing.
Last thing here.
Yeah.
This book can come to you free if you'd like to sign up on a reoccurring donation. Click on the website here. You do a reoccurring donation of $10 a month. We'll send you the book for free.
Where does that $10 go?
That $10 a month goes to help restoring the Phoenicia, and covering some of our basic
A couple
costs.
different times I've tried to get you to tell what happened to the Phoenicia, but she basically ended up sunk in the canal. Then she cut up, and then we brought it up to Zarahemla, which is where she's at today.
Yeah, if you go on Phoenicia.rocks, we have all that information there about what happened to her and how we acquired her. But
Miracles.
it's lots of miracles. If you're visiting Nauvoo, come by and see us. We're right across the river. You walk out of our warehouse and look to the east, you're looking at the Nauvoo Temple. We had, in the last 2 years, we've had about 6,000 volunteers come by.
6,000 hours.
6,000 hours, I'm sorry. And probably at least 20% of that is non-LDS. So if you're coming with your family, a reunion, call us up, get a hold of us, come over, we'll put you to work. You can put your hands on the Phoenicia.
The spirit of Phoenicia is real.
Yeah.
That's
Very
all
real.
I can say. People come and they see her, they see her head, they experience the just being there by the spirit.
Yeah.
She has a spirit.
Yeah.
With the Native
Well,
American world,
Yeah.
we believe that everything has a spirit.
Yeah.
And the wood, the ship, it's alive.
It was
It's
a
alive.
living tree at one
Yeah.
point, and it still
Yeah.
has that. I would just also say these guys would probably not say it, and maybe you're going to be upset with me for mentioning this, but Betty and Mike were so moved by the miracle of being able to get the ship, because there were museums over in Europe that wanted the ship,
Yeah.
and then because of COVID they couldn't do it, and so forth and so on, and so you guys became very much committed to this.
Yeah.
So committed, in fact, that brothers and sisters, they actually sold their home
We sold our home, and
to be able to buy the ship.
along with the Heartland Research Group, we
So-
were able to purchase the ship and restore it, and
And John Lefgren, our
John
president, had a
Lefgren.
lot to do with it too.
very, very inspiring.
So
Inspiring,
So
so-
these guys have they've got blood, sweat, and tears in this project, and anything that we can do, if you can help them a little bit with a little donation of $10 a month or whatever, we're going to get this ship.
Skip a Big
back.
Mac once a month.
yeah, going back to Washington D.C. and buying food there, I was like, holy cow!
Yeah.
I mean, a Carl's Jr. burger practically is like $10 or $11 now with a meal.
Yeah.
Like, whoa, that's like one meal a month, and that would help to make the Phoenicia whole again.
Yeah.
Bring her all back together again.
Yeah.
We don't know exactly where this museum's going to end up being,
We don't.
but we do have land already for it.
We have land, part of the half-breed track in Iowa, in Lee County, which is also a piece of the LDS land that Joseph Smith bought across the river. So
Yeah.
we have some acreage there, but fortunately, we have other options opening up, which
Yeah.
are to be
Be really good. Announced.
announced.
Okay, so thanks everybody for taking your time
Thank
to
you.
watch this, and we
Thank you,
hope this is
Rod.
helpful in making your decision on this. If you can support the Phoenicia, these two would be very happy, and it will make me thrilled as well.
Along with
And,
the Heartland
And
Research
also
Group.
Philip Beale, we want to thank him and all the crews that have been part of this, these two wonderful expeditions. It is really a phenomenal thing. We have so much to be excited about in the gospel of Jesus Christ, and especially when we see the evidence that's coming forth for the Book of Mormon. So, Betty, are you going to regale us with a little
I want to
something?
play something for you.
All right.
That means a lot to the world, really. It's a moving song. Let's see if you recognize it. Oh, cut.
Reprint.
Okay.
It's all
Just
gonna,
for
Do it
when
again.
I start.
you know it's gonna be in there.
Beautiful.
Thank you for having us, Rod.
Yes, you have a beautiful home here.
Well, I think
You're very hospitable. The elk tonight. When you come and visit, he's gonna have an elk dinner ready for you.
we have an elk. We had elk roast tonight. It was
You
wonderful.
cut this elk with
Wonderful.
your fork.
Can I just say though that one of my favorite times we had together is when we were actually in the building of this home, and you came out for a visit, and we went down by the stream,
Mm-hmm.
and we were sitting down there, and all of a sudden I hear this beautiful melodic music coming from Betty's Native American flute, and I think the song that you were playing was
Your favorite song. Your
My-
favorite hymn.
My
Yeah.
favorite too.
yeah, one of my two favorite hymns. Firm Foundation is one of my favorite.
Oh, yeah, sure.
Okay, and the other one is. Would you play that for us?
Yeah, I
Could
can.
you do
I
that?
can
Yeah,
try
use
to
this
do
one
it.
or the other one.
Yeah.
Let's try this one.
Okay.
Let's see what happens.
By the way, you should see this thing. Is absolutely gorgeous. I mean,
Beautiful.
it's
Mine
real
said-
good.
I'll buy you the flute if you learn my favorite song.
And that's your favorite
This
song
is
too.
his favorite song.
Okay, here we go.
Very good.
Hugs. Hugs. All right, everybody. Hope you enjoyed that beautiful melodic music, and if you ever have a chance to hear that with the sound of a rushing stream and the sound of the leaves, the aspen tree leaves in the wind,
That's a
it
beautiful
is
day.
really a beautiful day, and one I will never forget. So,
Yeah.
thank you so much. All right, everybody. So tune in next time. We're going to have we have a plethora of wonderful podcasts coming up. If you're enjoying these and you haven't already subscribed, now's the time to do it. Right there, the button's right there. Just put it on in there, and make sure you get involved with this, because this is some deep dive stuff. This is stuff that you're not going to get from any other of the 65 or 70 Come Follow Me programs that are all out there. Study your Come Follow Me lesson manual. Go to your lessons, and if you want to do a deep dive on Book of Mormon research, this is your place.
This is the place. Thank you, Rod.